This is the signature of an illiterate man, a simple mark, the final damning proof that a famous imposter was finally exposed. For decades, historians have pointed to this X and delivered their verdict. Case closed. But what if they've been reading it wrong? What if this isn't a signature of ignorance, but one of genius? The calculated masterpiece of the most wanted man in America, who never stopped hiding. This is the story of how Billy the Kid engineered the greatest escape of his life, not from a jail cell, but from history itself, and how a single misunderstood mark on a page may be the very clue that proves he got away with it all. We're not just re-examining the evidence, we're investigating the 70-year performance of a man who became a ghost and the dedicated few who worked to finally, truly, find him. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to help support our community. Historians often cite Billy the Kid's education, pointing to his eloquent letters to Governor Lew Wallace with their refined penmanship and articulate prose. He is portrayed as a man of intellect, not just action. Then, conclusively, they present a legal document signed late in life by Brushy Bill Roberts. At its base, where a signature belongs, rests a primitive, unadorned X. "Observe," they declare with a self-satisfied smile. Brushy was an uneducated illiterate. He was incapable of writing his own name. He could not possibly be Billy the Kid. To them, that X is the definitive proof, the incontrovertible evidence that ends the discussion. Yet, in truth, it is a diversion. It is the single piece of evidence they emphasize because they are willfully disregarding the sworn accounts of those who actually knew Brushy. Consider his attorney, William V. Morrison. This is not hearsay. This is the man who drafted Brushy's pardon application, who spent innumerable hours in conversation with him. Morrison swore under oath that Brushy would often read newspaper articles aloud to him, analyzing current affairs with perceptive understanding. He witnessed him reading sections from the family Bible. Others corroborate this, including a ranch hand who worked alongside Brushy and remembered him reading correspondence and farming pamphlets. So why the X? One must comprehend the psyche of a man who lived 7 decades as a fugitive. Each day of his existence was a performance, a masterful act crafted to remain concealed in the open. He could not be the learned, articulate William H. Bonney. That individual was a phantom, a myth. To endure, he was compelled to become someone else completely. An uncomplicated man, a reserved man, a man who would never attract a second glance. An X on a form was not a mark of stupidity. It was a deliberate, ingenious piece of disguise from a man who had mastered the skill of vanishing. The specialists wish you to think a man cunning enough to stage his own demise, evade capture for a lifetime, and meticulously construct a new persona was somehow thwarted by the basic task of learning to sign his name. This is an affront to his cleverness and, honestly, an affront to your own. They demand you concentrate on the X on the paper because they do not want you to see the man who was shrewd enough to place it there. That mark was never an admission of inability. It was a statement of the identity he was forced to adopt for his own survival. The assertion that Brushy Bill was illiterate is a falsehood, an intentional distortion of the facts. We have observed how that allegedly condemning X was in truth a masterful act of deception from a man skilled in the craft of concealment. Yet the stronghold defending the accepted narrative rests on more than a single support. Now we turn our focus to their second major claim, another foundational element of their case against Brushy, the declaration that he did not speak Spanish. This is another of their preferred arguments. They will insist to you that Billy the Kid was effectively bilingual. He was raised in the New Mexico territory, immersed within Hispanic culture. He had a Mexican sweetheart, was fluent in Spanish, and employed it regularly to maneuver through the intricate social world of the frontier. Then they turned to Brushy Bill, maintaining he was merely a plain countryman who spoke only English. How could he possibly be the kid, they demand, if he lacked command of the language so central to Billy's very being? This, they contend, is another irrefutable inconsistency, definitive proof Roberts was an imposter. But just as with the illiteracy charge, this contention disintegrates upon close examination. It depends on selective listening and the conscious exclusion of vital testimony. Let us return to William Morrison, Brushy's lawyer. Morrison frequently affirmed that Brushy spoke Spanish. This is not a hazy memory. Morrison cited particular occasions where Brushy utilized the language. This does not stand as a single account. We have statements from others acquainted with Brushy in his later years who also attested to hearing him speak Spanish. These are not random, isolated stories. They are uniform reports from numerous people who had first-hand experience with the man. Even more convincing is the sworn statement of Martil Abreu. For those who may not know, the Abreu family was iconic in Lincoln County, New Mexico. Now we approach what the skeptics are convinced is their ultimate proof, the one piece of information they deem undeniable: the lie of his identity. They will inform you with absolute conviction that Brushy Bill Roberts was born Oliver P. Roberts. They will produce a family Bible containing his name inscribed inside, indicating a birth year of 1879. They will present census documents that note an Oliver P. Roberts residing with his relatives in Arkansas. The matter is settled, they proclaim. This individual cannot be Billy the Kid, who was born in 1859. They claim to know precisely who he was, and it was not William H. Bonney. They frame this as a straightforward, indisputable case of confused identity, or more skeptically, an intentional hoax. Yet what they are actually showcasing is the most cunning and enduring element of Billy the Kid's getaway. They have confused the camouflage for the actual man. We must examine their so-called proof. That family Bible entry was not created at his birth. It was added many years afterward. More critically, the Roberts family confessed to investigator William Morrison that they had taken Brushy in as a young boy after his own father could no longer provide for him. He was not their natural son. They provided him with the name Oliver and brought him up as one of their own. Therefore, the Bible and census documents do not verify his birth identity. They only confirm the identity he was given. They are documents of his alias, not his true self. A man evading the law would naturally be listed on all official paperwork under his adopted name. To anticipate anything else is irrational. Discovering a record for Oliver P. Roberts is not proof that refutes Brushy's claim. It is evidence of how remarkably effective he was at remaining concealed. The genuine evidence resides in the research the debunkers choose to overlook. Morrison's inquiry revealed that Brushy's true birth name was William Henry Roberts, born in Buffalo Gap, Texas, and that his personal chronology and family ties perfectly clarified how he came to live with the family who named him Oliver. He was a Roberts by blood, which rendered the alias all the more persuasive. He was not some stranger who invented a tale. He was a man finally reclaiming a past he had been compelled to suppress for an entire lifetime. Consider the absolute brilliance of the scheme. To ensure his survival, Billy the Kid was required to perish so that another individual could be created. He could not simply disappear. He needed to transform into someone ordinary, someone forgettable, a person with a verifiable and commonplace background. He became Oliver Brushy Bill Roberts, an uncomplicated countryman. The absolute last person anyone would imagine was the most notorious outlaw in American history. The historians are gesturing at the disguise and yelling that they have discovered the man's real face. They have it entirely reversed. The identity of Oliver P. Roberts was not evidence that he wasn't Billy the Kid. It was his magnum opus. It was the ultimate masterstroke that permitted him to live out his days in tranquility, concealed publicly, until he was an elderly man, finally prepared to reveal the truth to the world. We have now deconstructed the pillars of illiteracy, language, and identity. We next approach the fourth and most nuanced pillar of the established narrative, the myth of Billy the Kid as a historical aberration. Historians present us with a paradox, a teenager who materializes on the frontier with scant history, first at the Jones Ranch and then laboring for John Tunstall, who then abruptly evolves into a brilliant strategist and a commander of men in a vicious guerrilla conflict. They provide no explanation for this prodigious set of skills. The fourth falsehood is not merely that Billy the Kid had no ties to the James Gang. The lie is that he required no such connection. The reality is that Billy the Kid's capabilities did not emerge from a vacuum. They were the product of an apprenticeship. Brushy Bill Roberts' testimony regarding his lost years prior to arriving in New Mexico supplies the essential missing link. He stated under oath that as a young man, he associated with the most proficient and combat-tested criminal organization in America, the James Younger Gang. This is vital because the gang was more than simple bank robbers. Its core consisted of former Confederate partisans from Quantrill's Raiders. They were specialists in the hit-and-run tactics, skirmishing, and psychological operations that characterized the Missouri-Kansas border war. Where did Billy the Kid acquire the advanced strategies he employed to lead the regulators and outfight experienced veterans in the Lincoln County War? He learned them from the masters. Brushy Bill's account clarifies what history alone has failed to explain. His activities extended far beyond simple cattle rustling. He was undergoing a formal education in irregular guerrilla combat. This crucial link recontextualizes Billy the Kid from an inexplicable phenomenon into a comprehensible outcome of his experiences and training. He was, in essence, a conditioned operative. This foundational training is the reason a teenager could so assuredly command a faction during a sophisticated conflict, and it explains how he developed the prowess to become the most formidable and dreaded individual in the entire region. The argument, at last, is fully formed. So where does that leave us? We have the testimony, we have the evidence, we have the motive and the means for the greatest deception in American history. The official story asks us to believe in a series of incredible coincidences. That an illiterate, monolingual farm boy from Arkansas somehow convinced a lawyer, a sheriff, and the childhood friends of Billy the Kid that he was the real thing, that a man who couldn't sign his own name could mastermind a hoax of this magnitude for decades. But our story asks you to believe just one thing, that Billy the Kid was exactly as smart, as cunning, and as ruthless a survivor as the legends have always said he was. The question was never, could Brushy Bill Roberts have been Billy the Kid? The real question, the one that history has refused to ask for over a century, is this. If you were Billy the Kid, if you had faked your own death and evaded every lawman in the West, is there any chance at all, that you would ever stop hiding? That X was his final masterpiece, not a confession of ignorance, but a declaration of victory. He told us who he was, one last time, hiding in plain sight. He was Billy the Kid, and he lived. But what do you think? The comment section is now the jury. The case is yours to decide.